There's a theme in the readings, especially the first reading in the gospel, of self-deceit. Self-deceit, that is to be blind about the truth of ourselves. So in the first reading, we have these images, the sieve that when shaken separates the husks, the furnace that finishes and tests this pottery, and then we have the fruit and the tree in the first reading and in the gospel. That you can tell the health of the tree by the condition of the fruit. And then Jesus gives us this beautiful one that is the beam in our own eyes. I always like thinking about this because it's such a ridiculous image, like a beam sticking out of your face. It's even like hard to walk around with, like you swing your head and you're going to hit somebody with it or something. In the beginning, in the first readings, there's more of a focus. It's more about one person's self, even one person's fault being revealed to another. So it says, don't praise someone before they speak, and then you find out what kind of person they are. In the gospel, though, it's more about my faults being revealed to myself. This is, again, about self-deceit that is like so easy for us, actually. So I just want to give you an example of this, what this can look like. When I was in seminary, it was a day where we had Mass all together, and then we had lunch afterward. And so at Mass, like one of the transitional deacons were preaching. So it was exciting because new deacon, like first time preaching at the seminary, and we're all there, a couple hundred of us for Mass, and he was talking specifically, this is like a good seminary homily, he was talking about complaining. It's like, we're just like so good at complaining. We can complain about nothing, you know? I don't know why it is, because we're just looking for something to do, but we complain about it's too hot, or it's too cold, or class is too hard, or class is too easy, or whatever it is, you know? So he was just calling us out on that, and it was a very helpful thing. Like, what are we doing? We're really good at complaining about all kinds of things. And then, after Mass, we went to lunch, and it was chilly for lunch. So I sit down, and there's a table of guys and everything, and the guy next to me says, this chili has too many beans in it. And I was like, that's funny. That's really like comical with the homily and great. And then I realized that he was serious. And he had no idea what he was doing. And that's what was like, that's like what's kind of repellent about it. Like, we were at the same place. You heard what I just heard. Do you hear what like chili with too many beans in it? It's like this burger has too much beef or something. What are we talking about? So Lent is very soon. Ash Wednesday is this week. And usually we have this goal to improve or grow in some way. And we want to see progress by the end. We want to be able to measure some sort of progress forward. But I want to give you to consider this as a goal for Lent. Simply to see the beams in my eye. Because we're too careful sometimes. I am too careful sometimes. And it's probably true about you also. Too careful sometimes because I work really hard to look good to others, to give it a good example, to not look stupid or something like that, because I'm afraid of judgment, I'm afraid of disappointing people, but I can work so hard at it that I can fool myself and think I'm better than I am. And because I can kind of control the beam, I believe that it's not really there. A white knuckle grip on my speech and my behavior is not the same as interior conversion. So it ends up being something like, rather than testing the fruit to find out the condition of the tree, just don't let anybody test the fruit, you know? Or just don't have any fruit, and then you can't tell whether the tree is healthy or rotten. If you're so busy controlling all of this, then nobody can test the fruit or know what you really think or know how you really are and find out that there's rot in the tree. Another thing that I'm thinking about with this is that there's a huge difference between faults that are known and unknown to the person. Okay, what's repulsive is when people have a fault and they have no idea because they're so self-deceived. Like somebody, I don't know, so what's a ridiculous example? I'm a very humble person. And then you see the arrogance in that person in so many ways, or the pride. It's like, I don't want to be around you, you know? But when somebody knows their fault, even if they haven't made a lot of progress, even if they're still struggling, this is a totally different thing. They end up like catching themselves, like, I'm doing that thing again. And they quickly apologize, like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make progress on that, hitting a wall. It changes somebody's fault from something that's repulsive when they just have no idea, like complaining about chili and beans. It changes it to something like an invitation and an easy one to bear another person's weakness, to bear their burden, Because the big problem of our sins and faults is not that we're imperfect, but that they reduce our capacity for relationship. They close us off and push others away. The point of Lent is greater intimacy with God and a greater capacity to love. Again, the problem with these things is not that we behave badly or look bad or something like that. Like, we don't want to sin for sure, but we're looking for something deeper than that, something interior, actually transformative, for the sake of greater intimacy, vulnerability, and relationship. So what would Lenten resolutions look like if they were for the sake of relationship and intimacy by way of me knowing better the beam in my own eye? Like, what can you do to shake the sieve to expose the husks? Or what can you do to heat up the furnace so that the cracks in the pottery and imperfections appear? What do you do to test the fruit, to find the unhealthiness in the tree, rather than covering it up and controlling and never getting to a place where it can be found out? So I want to offer you 3 tools, 3 Lenten disciplines to help you see more clearly, to help me see more clearly. The first one is silence. The second one is silence, and the third one is silence. Silence is this wonderful, holy thing that can work to open our eyes and unmask what has been covered up. You can do like a practice of silence, like I'm gonna be quiet for 10 minutes in prayer or something like that. But most of the time it's just like a little adjustment in the day that you already have. Like, just don't turn on music, or don't turn on a podcast, or like take a few minutes before you turn on the TV or something like that. When you're in the car, when you're in the shower, like in these times that you already have. The point of this is not to add more work or something, but to make room. So I'm going to give just a little list of things that silence can help us pay attention to and see more clearly. You don't have to like pray with all of these things or pay attention to all of them, but just notice what catches your attention. Like, ask the Lord to show you what's 1 or maybe 2 things I can pay attention to when I'm quiet this Lent. So silence opens our eyes and unveils our own thoughts, our reactions to things, what we did not say, but we were thinking or we would like to say. Silence reveals our ruminations, those things that we play over and over in our minds. It can reveal also to me my own secret manipulations, the ways that I get what I want from people, but safely so that I can't get caught. Silence can reveal my own fantasies, some sinful, some just dreams. Silence reveals like the condition, the cleanliness of my own tongue, what I said and why I said it. Silence also helps me to see my resentments that I carry around, and my shame, and my sins of escape, the things that when reality is too much, when I need a break, that like the unhealthy, harmful, sometimes just evil thing that I turn to. Silence can also reveal my own hopelessness, that's sometimes disguised as a sigh. And I think this is the thing, I'm not happy about it, but I think this is the thing that I'm going to be praying with this Lent. But silence also is necessary if I'm going to see more clearly the things that must change in me, but that I excuse, that I have all kinds of reasons for. I know I gotta grow in this or change that, but I'm so busy, or now is not the time, or I just can't right now because of this and that. The things that I excuse in myself. So there's plenty of places, plenty of things to pray with. Again, you don't have to do the whole list. It's too much for one Lent. But the point is, in silence, we can see these things and be with the Lord as we look at them and address them. All of this, I want to sort of say, like, maybe this changes how you picture a successful Lent at the end. Again, we want to see progress at the end of Lent. But a successful Lent might not be feeling like I mess up less, because the point of this is not to bury, but to uncover, actually. So we might our faults might be more exposed, at least to ourselves at the end. We might look worse to ourselves at the end than at the beginning, but actually this is great progress. because what we find was always there. It's not like new faults. It was always there, and we just closed our eyes to it. I just came from seminary evaluations at SJV in St. Paul, and I try to be careful of this in these evaluations, to praise in the guys not like faultlessness. Like, yeah, we're going to affirm their strengths and everything, but what is really praiseworthy and good, what is a great sign of progress, is when they are more aware of their own weakness and need. So a guy who says philosophy is really hard and I need a tutor, and I went to whatever, the learning center, and I talked to my professor, he gets much more praise than the guy that says philosophy is easy and I can get all A's. Because this guy knows his weakness and he's addressing it, Lent is for intimacy with God and a greater capacity in ourselves to love. The things that we're talking about, the beam in our own eye, the husks, the pottery, the tree, like all these things are things that close us up, that harden our hearts, that decrease our capacity for love and like reduce the amount of space that God can have in us, in our hearts. To take a look at these things, especially in silence, to allow them to be exposed, it's also that they can be addressed, so that we can bring them to the Lord, because he wants to heal us, make us whole, take away our sins, make us free, so that he can take up more space, so that our hearts have more capacity for life and grace and peace.